Hey, welcome back to another episode of Stage Door. If you've done theater in the Northwest Ohio, Southeast Michigan area, then there is pretty much no chance that you haven't worked with today's guest, Susan. In fact, I just walk down the street sometimes and I see her. I see her everywhere. I see her at every show. She comes to all sorts of things, even if she's not working the show. And that's why we're like really excited to have her, because she's kind of a big deal in the area. So she's been doing this for a while. Lots of experience, lots of fun stuff. I think you're really going to enjoy this. It's good to see you again, Susan.
By the way, I think I work right across the street from you.
See, that's what I said. From time to time, I run into you downtown.
No.
What?
I mean, literally. I work in One Maritime.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I just started there 4 weeks ago.
Oh, when did that? Yeah, 4 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
When
because I
COVID
would
hit.
be wandering downtown and I would just see you. Mm-hmm. Be like, there's Susan. I know that lady. Uh-huh. But you've been working at the Stranahan.
Oh, yeah.
So you were
Backstage.
Yeah, backstage, doing all the stuff at the Stranahan, and that's how I mostly got to know you, obviously.
Well, and also from Spring Awakening. Because you came to the cutting edge, you would drop off Gabe.
No, that Gabe was in Cabaret.
Or Cabaret.
Cabaret.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
But that was like, I felt like I already known you for like 10 years at that point in time.
Well, I met you when Gabe was in Ragtime.
Right.
So
Man, he just blew me away.
Oh.
Just totally blew me away. And I was part of that cast that came up that Saturday night and sang with him.
I don't know anything about
What?
this.
my son was in that show too.
Yeah. Tyler was in that show too.
Joe Barton had directed an adult version of Ragtime. Like, it's on there. It's on my resume.
Oh.
About a year or so beforehand. What was it? It was 2000, I don't remember now. Anyway, we had done the show, and then fast forward a couple of years, and he did the student version of Ragtime. He actually sent out a text or a Facebook post saying, any of you who were in the original show, would you be willing to come on X date and sing with my cast after the show? So a whole bunch of us from the original cast came and watched the show, and when it was finished, he literally, down both aisles at the Maumee, led us down to the stage, we all walked in behind the young actors, and then we sang the song that I cried.
That was the one. Okay. That was the one performance I didn't come to.
Honestly, it was the one I think I skipped to. I'm not kidding. That was because when I sat home, this is one of Gabe's very first shows, and I sat home on one of them by myself while he was up on stage doing his thing, and Holly was there doing her mom thing of a very young person who's in the show. And I was at home, and I was just like, what the hell am I doing? I'm never going to do this again, because I know how much work he put into it. And I'm just sitting there at home like a dumbass going, why didn't you just spend another $17 again? Just go to the show. Yeah. So now I never do that. That was a lesson for me as a dad.
And we've started this podcast so we can get into shows for free. So
yeah.
That doesn't always work.
Doesn't always work.
It's never worked.
No, but I'll tell you, the easiest way to get in free, volunteer to usher.
Usher, right.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's the best way to get in and see any show you want.
So we just started to chat about my son beginning to do what you do, backstage stuff, and you were telling me that when you think of musical theater, you think...
When I think of acting or theater at all, when I first started thinking about it, all I thought of was, you're an actor. You need to memorize lines, and you get to be out on a stage and show off what you can do, et cetera, et cetera. It never occurred to me, and I don't know why, but it never occurred to me that there were things that you could do backstage if you were not that good of an actor, and I'm not. I can't memorize lines for diddly squat.
Diddly squat.
The only
Watch
line,
your language over there.
The only line that I have ever kept in my head over these years is ale. Ale for sale. Move right in, gentlemen. Ale for sale. Ale.
What's that from?
Christmas Carol.
Christmas Carol.
Christmas Carol. Okay.
And I was in Christmas Carol for 8 seasons.
But this
After
is-
that particular season, I went back one more time, and it was at the Stranahan, and I played on the Stranahan stage.
And that was the last time you stepped on the stage, basically?
As far as Christmas Carol is concerned, that was the last time I stepped on stage as an actor. I did work Christmas Carol one more time, and that was as an assistant stage manager. And luckily enough, I wasn't calling the show, which meant I got to be backstage, keeping actors calm and making sure they were where they should be, et cetera, et cetera. That particular year, I think it was 2007 or 2008.
Is that how you started to get into more of the behind the scenes? Okay. So
No.
how'd you get in? Yeah, so that's what we want to know is like, how did
Well,
you get into the behind
Yeah.
the scenes?
How did this start?
I'm just going to tell you from the beginning.
Yeah, that's good.
When I was married,
Uh-huh.
my ex liked to run. That was his thing. He belonged to a club. And to me, running was boring as boring can be. Because
It is,
it's
because I had
singular.
a high school girlfriend who was in cross country, and it was brutal to go watch her. I'm like, ugh.
Well, but it's more than that. It's a solitary sport.
Yeah, it's
And
true.
I am not a solitary person. I mean, I enjoy staying home alone and watching a movie or whatever. But when it comes to doing something, I would much rather be with people. And so my boys had graduated from high school. My kids, by the way, are 48 and 47. And neither one of them actually ever got into theater, so I was never a stage mom. There was a year that we did something down at the art museum called Lights, Camera, Action, where they learned how to write a play and all kinds of stuff. I even have a video of it as a memory. But anyway, I had gone to London 2 years prior to my getting involved in theater with my son Peter, who was a student at Maumee High School, and Johnny Meyer was the teacher out there. And she every other year used to take students and adults who were interested to London for a theater trip. Fast forward 2 years later, I want to do something, and I get a flyer in the mail from the rep that says, "Oh, we're having adult classes for acting." So I decided to take a class because Johnny Meyer was teaching it, and I'm shy to a certain extent in that when you act or when you do something like that, you're exposing yourself, and I'm not used to doing that sort of thing. So I'll take the class. Well, halfway through the class, she said, "And there is something you have to learn. You have to learn how to audition, and you will audition on," and gave us a date and what we were to do. Okay. Well, as it turned out, it was Christmas Carol. And that is how I got involved with Christmas Carol. I was in it it was a wonderful thing to do in November and December for me. I loved being part of this and meeting the people that I did. Did it in December of 92 and 93. In 94, I skipped because my older son had moved out west and was coming home for Christmas, which was Hell Week. And so I couldn't be in the show that year. The following summer was my first attempt. I made the mistake of writing, "Sure, I'd volunteer for a show, whatever that happens to mean." And I get a call. They wanted me to help the costume designer, Kathy Dowd, who, by the way, is a great person that you guys need to speak with.
Okay, cool.
She was a bazillion years pregnant with her first child, and I was going to be her runner. And I thought, oh my God, what am I doing? So I went and I enjoyed myself. Not only did I help her, but I also helped to dress a couple of the actors. It was Singing in the Rain. So the lead actor, Paul Manger, I had to help him in and out of these clothes that he had when he was dancing on stage, etc. And I also helped with a few of the normal tech stuff I don't even remember what I did. I just remember changing him out of these outfits. And I kind of enjoyed it. Well, a couple months later, Big River. And they asked me to help again. And I thought, okay, I can do this. So I went. By the way, these 2 shows were done at the Franciscan Life Center, where they have a great big huge stage, and we were able to, they had really big sets, etc. So they needed a lot of techs backstage.
So you were a dresser, so a dresser is...
No,
okay.
not on the second show. Second show, I was just a tech. I was pushing wagons out onto the stage, which in this particular case, it was the raft for Tom or Huck Finn to be on, because the show was about Huck Finn, or take it off, or whatever it is. I think I also pulled some curtains in and out. But okay, that was kind of fun. And the next year, that December I was in Christmas Carol again, and then the next summer we did the Toledo Rep did City of Angels, and I realized at the end of that show that if I could work that particular show and not die, I could work any show. I could do anything backstage.
What made that show so much harder than the other one? What was
we
weird
had
about it?
City of Angels takes place in 2 ways. You have REAL life, and then you have REEL life. And literally the stage is cut in half. The real life, REAL life, was about a playwright in Hollywood who has moved out from New York to write a screenplay. The REEL life was black and white, literally. That's actors were wearing black and white or shades of gray. The set was black and white, no color at all.
Skin tones too? Did they have their skin tones painted gray? Well, I wasn't
no.
sure. Sometimes
No.
they do. I
No.
saw Anne Frank. They did that for Anne Frank as black and white.
Did they?
actually had gray skin too. It was really cool.
No, it wasn't that bad. But we had to, there were a number of scene changes. And on my side, I was on stage left at the time. No, stage right. I'm sorry, stage right. We had to take a wagon, take off 2 walls, 2 normal-sized doors, a great big thing that stood in as a kitchen counter, and a bed. Take all of that off and then reset the whole thing, and we had to do it in under 2 minutes. And we did it every night. And it was, oh my God.
I was saying that's hard because
It was exhilarating.
Because we're talking about heavy items. We're not talking about light, plywood, whatever. These were actual objects, actual beds, actual wooden frames that we had to lock in and then put doors on again.
things that needed to support actual people. That's why they needed to be probably so strong and heavy.
There were 7 of us that used to do this change, and we had to do it every night for the run of the show. And it wasn't just once; it was like 4 times during the run of during that actual performance that we had to change back and forth into various things. It was amazing, and we were our group that worked on that side of the stage, we're so proud of ourselves because we accomplished all of this. And it was after that I thought, I can do this. The following September, this was in June, in September, I was asked if I would be willing to be the prop master for Forever Plaid. What's that? Well, you collect you try and find all of these different props. They're for the show because they're going to use them on the stage, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so this list has like 25 different things that I have to find, including a picture of a 1956 Mercury something or other.
A car?
A car.
Okay, yeah.
A car. Where do you find a great big picture that the boys can hold on to, the actors can hold on to show the audience so the audience can actually see what it is they're showing? It's like a commercial that they're doing during the middle of the show. Danged if I didn't find one.
Oh, really?
I decided, why don't you call Mercury Lincoln? Find out if somebody there would have an archive picture that I could borrow. Turns out the guy collected pictures, and he had one. And he said, sure you can.
And what year was this? Because now people just post on Facebook. Anybody have this?
Early 90s.
Yeah.
It was
Late
90s. Which, I don't remember, what was it, 95, 96?
Gotcha. So
Something
the internet
like
was
that.
just a baby even then.
Yeah, and then I worked, this was the first time that I worked at the 10th Street stage.
What's that mean to me?
The Toledo Repertoire Theater has a theater location at 10th and Washington.
Okay, so that's a Toledo Rep. Okay, so yeah, I mean,
Correct.
it's called. I never heard it referred to as a 10th. Have you, Ron?
Nope.
No.
At-
So that must be a totally like you got to be in the know club or something to call it the 10th Street thing. I've never heard.
I
that
don't
before.
think so, because the Toledo Repertoire Theater has been the 10th Street stage for 80
Yeah, but
some years.
who knows is that though? I've never.
80
I mean,
some
I've
years?
been listening to this podcast, and I've never heard anybody say that before. Have you, Ron?
Oh, really?
No,
Not
we've had
even
the
Paul?
rep. No,
We had Paul on.
No, we've had two people, and we actually recorded in the 10th Street. I use quote marks.
Yeah.
The 10th Street Theater for one of the episodes, and I've never heard it called that before.
Yeah.
But that's just maybe everybody just calls it that's the Toledo Rep. I mean, we don't know so. But how did you? So you're already like how many years in, and so basically everybody just keeps asking you to do stuff. Is that what's happening here?
yeah.
You just get this.
Well,
this
part of it
snowball effect?
was asking. Part
Oh,
of
you
it was
were
at the end of Christmas Carol, you always have to tear down the set, right? Well, they want volunteers. And,
And
part
that's
of being
when
in a
everybody
show,
usually scatters like cockroaches. And
that's exactly right.
yeah, volunteers. Well, who? I don't even know what a wrench is.
But-
yeah.
But I thought, okay, but it's something I want to learn.
Ah.
And also, I don't want to leave these people.
Ah.
I'm not ready to go home yet.
There you go.
I like being around all these artistic people who are fun and witty and kind and please and thank you. That is
Imagine
in
that.
theater. In theater. And the reason I stay in theater is because of those two words, please and thank you. Because they are used always.
What's funny is we had a costume designer in here already. McBain is her last name, and she talked about how it was. She picked up a drill and she just started working, and she loved it. She started making friends, and so it sounds like very similar to what you're talking about.
And so you're behind the stage at Les Mis at the Stranahan, and you're hearing please and thank you.
Even the national tours
The national
do
tours.
that.
So-
yes, because that's the way theater people, the right ones. And I have not had. I don't think I've had one bad experience even with the national tour companies when I've worked as a dresser. It is fascinating how kind everyone is to each other. Yes, you're going to have divas no matter what, whether they be male or female. You're always going to have those. But the ones that I will always remember are the ones who treat me with kindness. I have one person who I just adore. Her name is Ann Cannengeiser, and I first met her in January of 2002. She came into town with Beauty and the Beast. She was playing Mrs. Potts. And I was scared to death because I'd never done it before. I'd never been a dresser before.
So
But
you've never been a dresser before, and your first dressing job
Is
a
Mrs.
national
Potts.
tour.
with one person, thank God,
Okay.
Is Mrs. Potts.
is Mrs. Potts.
And how did you get asked to be a dresser for a national tour if you've never done it before?
I was fortunate enough to meet through Kathy Dowd, Melissa Prottengeier, who literally is the number one dresser in the IATSE union here in Toledo. Her seniority is literally number one in Toledo. Anyway, Missy I had worked with Kathy at one of the Toledo operas, and she must have been watching me, is all I can figure, and decided that I was worth keeping in mind. And she called me first for ragtime, and I said, oh, gee, I've got tickets, and I really can't. Stupid. Then she called me a month later for Titanic, and I'm sorry, I have tickets. Stupid.
Well, stop being such a fan. I mean, come on.
No, it isn't that. It's that what I found out working Beauty and the Beast is you get to see it 8 times. You only see it once if you're an audience member.
Sucker.
I've worked, and my voice is getting higher, and I don't mean to do that.
No, get higher and louder and excited. It's fine.
I have worked Phantom of the Opera 84 times. I didn't see Phantom of the Opera until the 85th time.
Oh.
When Anne Kanegeiser was in it, because she came back to Toledo twice after Beauty and the Beast. The first time she ended up arriving in the middle of Phantom as the replacement as the understudy to Madame Giry, who is the dance master in Phantom of the Opera. And then the last time that she came, she was Madame Giry. And it was after that time that I thought, I've got to sit down and see the show. So I went up to Detroit. She had me placed literally underneath the chandelier that drops. And it was awesome to be able to say, oh, I know her, and I just dressed her into the Toledo show and whatever.
But at least you knew the chandelier was going to drop. I mean,
oh gosh,
you weren't surprised by that. I mean, 84 times.
Oh,
you had
I
at least
laughed.
an idea that it was going to come down, so you weren't going to freak out like that. When we took the kids to go see Phantom for the first time, they didn't know. We didn't tell them. We didn't nothing. And that thing comes dropping down, and it's like,
that's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that.
It was amazing, because that's one of those shows that if any of the young people are interested in it, like not too young, obviously, but really have a passion for it, and you take them to Phantom, it's such a spectacle that, all right, you're hooked completely now. So
exactly,
that chandelier crashes, or just the floating with the candles is like, ugh.
Yes. The other show that is really good for young kids to be able to get a love of theater is Lion King.
And you did wardrobe for the Lion King.
I worked as a dresser with Lion King. I dressed a giraffe.
Oh.
As well as a number of other animals, but my favorite was the giraffe.
On your
so
resume.
how does that work? How does that work then? So
he's on stilts.
No, but not that. What I'm going to ask is that so it sounds like you said you just did Mrs. Potts, and then you just did a giraffe. Are there like 200 dressers back there? I mean, how do they?
It depends on the show.
Yeah.
Upcoming presently, for instance, there Come From Away is coming into town in January. Only 3 dressers are assigned to the show.
Okay.
Because that's all they need. There are other shows like The Lion King where you need 16 dressers because there are that many changes and that many actors and that many that's how...
I wouldn't think Mrs. Potts would need anybody. She's
Just
a pot for almost the entire show until the very end.
However, she has 2 costumes.
Oh, I never noticed.
And... well, if you saw the more recent ones, they're a kind of a pared down one, but the one that I actually would dress Anne in for every performance, her regular dress as Mrs. Potts, the human, was a fabric dress. And I would have to help her into that.
Right,
Plus,
but that doesn't appear until the end of the show, right?
In the beginning of the show and at the end of the show.
Oh, yes.
And then in the middle and from the middle of the beginning to the middle of the end, she's in the costume that I would dress her in.
Now, is the reason that she has a dresser because that is such a complicated outfit? Because, I mean, she has like 35 minutes from the opening of the show to when she shows up again. So I feel like...
because, well, when you consider what it involves, for instance, her when she became Mrs. Potts itself, she has no use of one arm at all.
Right.
So there's no way
to
get herself dressed. She needs someone to help her into that outfit and zip up and snap and whatever else it is that she needs to have done for that particular outfit. And the same way with, I've worked Wicked. What did I figure?
So she is kind of completely dependent on the dresser to make sure that she doesn't look like an idiot out there, wig falling halfway off and all that kind of stuff, because she doesn't
I have
that
nothing
one
to
arm.
do with hair.
Oh, okay, another thing.
That's
Jeez,
totally
wow.
different.
So this is what we're digging into here. See, we're kind of dumb, Ron, aren't we? We don't know any of this stuff. This is why we have you people on, though, because you guys you guys are living the life. We still own that we're dumb. Absolutely.
We still don't know what you do.
I mean, ignorant, naive. It's all these things that we don't know.
And you're a jack of all trades.
Right, and we're just sitting
No.
No.
I'm a Jill.
A Jill of all trades.
But we're just
Master
sitting here
of none.
listening
Okay,
to you,
let
and
me.
we're like, wait a minute.
On your resume, it says you're.
We have a resume here.
Part of the running crew or a runner, whatever those are. Prop mistress, wardrobe, costume mistress, light board operator, stage manager, and there's various stage managers, and a dresser, and calling the show. These are all things you're doing.
And this all started in 1912? What's the resume
Oh,
start?
shut up.
and you said at the beginning, well, when you think of musical theater, you think you're an actor. But that's the tip of the iceberg. All of these things are what's behind the scenes that you do.
Exactly.
And for
we are
major shows.
And they're not just musicals that I have worked. I work comedies and dramas as well. In fact, next spring I'll be stage managing at the Toledo Repertoire Theater.
As a stage manager, you have to get inside the head of the director every step to know exactly what he wants next.
Hopefully.
And are you on headsets with people calling?
When I'm actually working the show, yes. But when we're in rehearsal, that's when I really am a Jill of all trades. I have to make sure that the actors sign all the paperwork that needs to be, the waivers and such. I have to make sure that they are there on time, make sure that they have whatever it is that they need as we're rehearsing. And then also I will consult with the director and find out from her or him, what is it that you need? What do you need me to, what do you need for me to do next? Whether it's taking notes in my script as to, okay, we want a lighting cue here, or we want this, or whatever it happens to be. When I'm working with Stephanie Dennehy, who I know was your first guest, I'm her production stage manager, and I do most everything for her group. Everything from the very beginning of a production through to the very end. And I gather my crew, if I need one, to work backstage.
Were you the one who was flicking the light switch to do the strobe effect that she's talked about?
Yes, I am. In fact, it was so funny.
We found the magic right here.
Well, what was funny is that I didn't like the way that it looked. The scene that we were in, and it was supposed to be one of those, you're supposed to be high on marijuana during this scene. And I thought, oh, okay, how about if I do this? And I didn't even tell her. I didn't tell her what I was going to do. I just started doing it.
Flicking the light switch.
And I
flick,
just
flick,
kept
flick,
going
flick.
like this, back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And she looked at me and she said, keep it.
Keep it.
And it worked
Magic.
perfectly. This is when we didn't have any kind of lighting system.
Right, yeah, that's what she was saying. She's
And-
Showbiz
flicking the
is so
switch.
glamorous.
She said it was like the Little Rascals over there.
Yeah.
So you're working on nothing or nothing. You're just trying to make magic out of nothing sometimes.
And we did. And that's the thing. It's the Mickey Rooney, Judy Garland, let's put on a show type of thing. And that's what we've been learning, at least at Cutting Edge. Now we have our own lights.
she slipped that one past us. So last time we were talking to her,
It was
she didn't
because of
mention
our podcast that
I
got
knew it.
donations
I knew
to get
it.
lights.
We're amazing.
Well, we had someone donate
Oh, see, they listened
some
to us.
lights that they were. This was a couple of years ago.
Oh, okay.
And
Darn.
actually, it was a friend of mine that from another theater. And by the way, I don't just work with Cutting Edge or the Toledo Rep. I also work with the Village Players and Actors Collaborative, which is Jeff Albright's group. It's fun, and I have been in productions with Waterville Play Shop and Joe Barton's group,
3B.
3B. And so you get a sense of, you either want to learn or you don't. And for me, I was just absorbing it like a sponge. I wanted to learn everything. I used to bug them at the rep when I first started doing this in the mid to late 90s. I used to bug them. Do you need text? Do you need somebody to work backstage? Do you need blah, blah, blah? I would call for every show.
Oh.
And on some of my years, especially when I was going through my divorce, I was 11 months out of 12, I was working a show.
That's
doing
awesome.
something.
But you got started late, it sounds like.
Yeah, you said
You said
29 years ago.
Yeah.
You suddenly started this.
I was
Yeah,
40.
but, and your kids.
and
I was 41 years old and I'm 70.
What? You're 70?
no,
I am.
no, you're not.
You just showed up in that hot rod driving around 70-year-old? What
Yes.
in the...
And going strong.
Yeah.
And going strong.
And now the resume, it's the list of all the biggest shows ever. You've done Les Mis, Phantom, Wicked,
Yeah, coming through the strand.
Joseph, so much.
But it all started with you just doing like little things here and there, and now you're doing
now
these
you're big
national
time.
tours. Yeah,
And
Well, I
we're
don't know
in
about
awe.
big time. I think big time would be going to New York or whatever, but
Okay.
bigger time.
And your day job is doing this, and then on the side you're a secretary.
well,
Or is it the
no,
other
it's
way?
the reverse,
Oh, okay.
unfortunately. But that's okay. You have to pay the bills somehow.
Yeah.
And because community theater is freebie type of, I get 2 free tickets, 2 comps when I work a show, like I'm doing right now, currently. And
What's the show currently?
currently,
Go ahead. It's fine.
it's Something Rotten.
Something. Oh, at the rep. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
and I'm working with the costume designer. I'm actually at the theater every single night,
Yeah.
helping with actors to make sure that if a button comes loose, that I sew it back on real quick before they go back up on stage. If at the end of the show repairs have to be made, I make sure that they're noted so that because I don't
So
use
stage manager for something rotten. Or no?
no.
See,
no,
look
no.
at you. You're just
No,
doing
I'm not-
all sorts of
I'm not-
whatever.
I was actually.
I don't know what I'm going to label this podcast.
shows
Apparently,
up.
she's just.
She just shows
So
up.
we're going to
Jill of
label
all
it
trades.
Jill of all trade. There
Jill
you
of
go.
all
Exactly.
trades.
Because this is what you are. You're not just a one trick pony.
The technical director had originally asked me if I would work or run the light board for the show. And
The light board.
How'd you learn that?
And who's this technical director?
Ben Jameson.
All right. Yeah. We like names. So.
Okay.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
Ben Jameson, awesome tech director.
Would you
he
say
had-
that because he gave you a job? I mean, you have to say that, don't you?
I didn't have to twist his arm. Anyway, I was going to do that for the show, had my script, had colored my script so that I knew where I was while I was watching the show. And then he wrote me or sent me a text and said, hey, Angie really needs help with costumes. They're really having some problems with the costumes because they're very elaborate. We're talking about Shakespearean time.
Right. Do you know Angie's last name?
Patchett.
Oh.
Angie Patchett.
Oh, Miss Patchett.
Yes.
From TSA. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Angie Patchett.
And she teaches costuming at the school. Imagine that. Fashion and costuming.
And she's also the wardrobe or the costume designer for Something Rotten.
Mm-hmm. See, now I'm going to feel bad I don't go see the show because
Yes,
I do
you
know
will.
so many people in the show.
Yes, you will.
Apparently people behind the scenes I know as well. Look at the over here.
There are only so many shows that you can see.
No, that's true. And I had just seen a production of Something Rotten that TSA did, and then I saw Carol Crane do Something Rotten. So I'm kind of something rottened out right now. So,
But you know what? I've got people that are saying to me, I've seen it in
Oh,
Cleveland, I've
it's
seen
such
it
a fun
professionally, and they are better than.
Oh, awesome.
it's such a fun
The
show.
rep.
I mean, and what'll happen is a year from now I'll be ready to see it again. That's just me.
That's a shame because they won't do it again.
I know, but that's just I suck that way. But there'll be other shows. I've seen so many shows, and I like to see as many as I can. Obviously, I just went and saw. Well, I won't say because I'm going to really date this podcast if I keep telling all the
You're allowed
shows
to
we're
do
going
that.
to see or not see. So I just get a kick how you just do everything.
Yeah.
now. And
Who,
that's how I keep running into you over time. So when I first some of the first times I've run into you is just you enjoying the show. And coming, you were at Octa. I saw you at Octa. So you go there and you frequent those performances and get even little excerpts. And then I see you as a costumer for Beauty and the Beast for 3B. and then I see it's just like you're everywhere.
Now, okay,
Yeah.
so we're talking to you and you just sound so sweet and wonderful. But I hear horror stories that when it's time, you are cracking the whip and mean as could be, and you want it done right and you want it done well. Not mean, but you want it done right, and you're not going to take anything.
Every stage manager has their own voice.
I've heard her voice.
And if all is going well and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing and getting there on time, et cetera, you're just going to hear my friendly voice and how are you doing? I'm so glad to see you. Boy, did you do a good job. Whatever it happens to be. Don't get on my wrong side. I was wishing a former director happy birthday the other day, and when I said it to her, I said happy birthday to a wonderful director and mentor for a very scared stage manager. And she said, she wrote back, I'm so proud of you because I have watched you grow over the years as a stage manager, but I still remember the time that you jumped up on the stage and yelled at actors because they nearly killed themselves. We had a revolving set, and the actor was supposed to wait until it moved because walls were going to come against each other, and that person would have lost an arm or broken an arm or a leg or whatever, and she moved and did it. We had warned them several times. I was beside myself because I was so afraid she was going to get. We've got 16 people in this play. It was awesome show. I loved the show. We had so much fun doing it. Deb Calabrese was one of the stars in it, and also Johnny Meyer happened to be in it, and Brad Smith, who, by the way, is another good one for you to talk to.
All right. Get the list, write them all down, and give me the names.
It was just a fascinating and fun show, but on that particular occasion, I was scared to death that person was going to get hurt, and I just lost it.
Yeah.
Don't do that to me. I will protect you to the ends of the earth. I had some guy who was a stalker to a female actor during a show that I was working, and I told the guy, get out of my theater. You are not going to do this on a show day. Go home. Well, he left. I didn't have to call the cops. But I didn't want him around because I knew it was going to hurt the actor. And to me, I'm very important backstage to make sure that things run well, because the most important people in that theater at that point in time is the actor. They have to know that I am going to protect them, that I'm going to make sure they're going to stay safe, that I'm going to have the lights on when they're supposed to be, that they're going to have their props on the set when they're supposed to, get their costumes changed, whatever it happens to be. That's my job, is to make sure that they shine on stage, period. Oh. That's it. That's my bottom line. My actor has to shine on stage.
Props. You mentioned props. Is that a pet peeve? A prop table?
Oh gosh, no.
No,
do you get
her as a prop
get
table?
on
If somebody
people?
touches it, I'm sure she's going to murder them.
Mad at someone for touching a prop that isn't there?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because if you move his prop away from where he knows it's supposed
But it's
to be,
so shiny. I want to touch it.
tough tiddlywinks. Go find something else to play with, but not his prop.
Oh, she's in her voice now.
Yeah, see? Here she is. Although she did say tiddly.
And there's
That's
props.
That's how I saw. Unlike Stephanie, my words are like tiddlywinks.
Tiddlywinks.
You did say though, so I heard that. So it's good.
The pickup line is, you probably heard this. Are you someone else's prop because I so want to touch you? That's a pickup line that theater people use.
So, and if you said that, she'd make sure you don't come in the theater
I'm
anymore.
done. I'm
yeah,
out.
you creep. You're
out.
not allowed in the theater anymore.
Actually, to be honest, I've never heard that phrase.
No.
All right, so
Yeah,
want to touch
if-
you.
if-
He's been saving that for
Yes, I've been saving
a year.
that for years and finally got to say it. You said the word IATSE union?
Yes.
What?
IATSE union.
IATSE, IATSE, International, I think it's International Association of Theater and Stage Employees.
Okay. And
And-
you work with them.
Yes, I am not a member of IATSE because there are not enough shows in Toledo for me to be worth paying $1,000 to get in, number one, and then however much the union dues are
Yeah.
throughout the year. Now, mind you, when I do work a show under IATSE, I do pay union dues for those shows.
But that's cool. You
Yeah,
even,
it is.
So even though you're not a member of the union, you get to still work. You still get to get paid
yeah,
to
yeah.
work.
I
You
do.
know? That's amazing.
In fact, there were terrible thing to say, I suppose, from my former company that I worked almost 20 some years for. There was a point in time that I was making more money as a dresser than I was for as few hours as I worked, as I was working full time, 40 hours a week for this other company.
Now, okay.
Like $3 difference.
And again, you say please and thank you, and there's kindness even back there.
Even in the union people.
Oh,
Which
God,
I mean,
yes.
all I hear is bad things
Yeah,
about
yeah,
union
yeah,
people.
No.
But and because we deal a lot on the other side, not the behind the scenes thing, I feel like that is, there's this
great.
this
That's
bad
great.
blood maybe I feel like between the backstage crew and the tech crew and the actors. But you're saying absolutely not.
For all of the shows that I've ever worked at the Stranahan, the union people who come in with the shows are as kind and as nice as the people that I work with.
Oh,
I have gotten more ideas from, for instance, the prop person. How did you make that? I'm terrible. I'm not just a dresser. I am too curious. Most of the girls that I work with backstage as dressers, it's just a job. It's what they do. I can't do it that way. I've never been able. I'm too curious. I will ask too many questions. So I will continually ask, so long as I'm not bugging them, I will continually ask craftsmen what it is that they do. Because I want to find out. I want to hear about it. I want to know, why does it work this way? And how do you make that? It looks like a glass of water, but it's plexiglass inside. It's not real. Or whatever it happens to be on the stage. How did they do that? To get ideas for my own
Stage
self.
magic, exactly. How did they do the stage magic that we don't understand out in the audience when we're watching it? Like you said,
see that.
we just assume it's water in the glass. We don't think anything of it.
Right, exactly. And that is I think that's why I love working backstage so much, is because there is so much magic. And then I want to recreate it in our community theater.
Oh yeah, bring it.
So if I'm able to bring any kind of ideas to whatever theater I'm working with to make it easier to work with my actors in community theater, then I will continue to ask questions, period.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you need something for the Toledo rep, they say we need to have this obscure thing, like we need a turkey leg or something. Yeah, like I don't know how to make a turkey leg, but right, there was that one time I saw lunch,
And that's
I was a nosy butt, and I went in there and asked, and now I know. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's exactly what it is. For me, you have to have a sense of curiosity to make something better. You have to it helps to broaden what it is that you're doing, whatever play it is, whether it's a sad play or a happy play or a musical, whatever it is. You have to have a sense of curiosity and a wish to learn more.
So what is it when, so you started doing this, now you've done 100 100 different jobs that you never even knew about because you thought theater was just actors on the stage. And so what is it of all those jobs that you've done that you've enjoyed the most?
I can't name one in particular because each one has a different memory. Anne Canegeiser as a professional actor, knowing her, meeting another young man that am on Facebook with, two of them actually, two different shows. One was Wicked and one was Jersey Boys. And I'm so proud of the one from Jersey Boys, Clayton, because he is a producer now on Broadway, as well as an actor and a number of other things. He is one of the producers of, now I can't remember the name of the play right at the moment. Anyway, moving on. Being able to see someone like Amelia Shepherd, or Sarah Shepherd, pardon me. Sarah Shepherd was all of 7 years old when she was in Christmas Carol, when I knew her. And now she's this big-time Broadway dance captain with Beautiful.
Right.
And her sister, of course, is a teacher at TSA.
Right.
So knowing people like that, I love watching progression. I'm looking forward to seeing what Gabe does because I have admired him since he was in Ragtime. I couldn't believe that 7-year-old with the presence of mind that he had as the little boy in Ragtime. Oh my God. I was just, wow. Mm-hmm. I couldn't believe it. Thrilling to watch that.
You're trying to make me cry now.
Yeah.
Well, to me, to watch actors do what they do, to have the privilege of being able to watch from the very beginning, that's what a stage manager does. They start from page one, which is auditioning an actor, choosing them to become a part of a cast, and then watching them grow that character that you think in your mind's eye should be sort of in this direction, but then they take it and go in kind of the direction you're thinking, but even better. And it's like, wow. And I get to see that from day one until we close. It just, wow. I get goosebumps because I love watching that process. I have directed twice. The first one was what the Toledo rep called an edgy rep play, which is basically a reading on a very bare stage, and it was called Dog Sees God, which you've heard of it, obviously, because I can see your head nodding. Do you know what it is?
Nope, not a clue. I'm a theater dad.
It's about the Charlie Brown kids as teenagers and a lot of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And we'll leave it at that. But it's a remarkable play. It's just a very short, has about 10 vignettes. And it was my honor to direct that particular show. And then about 4 months later, they had a director drop out and then had two other directors. I'm sorry, but I really don't have the time. It's the middle of the summer. I don't feel like directing a show in the middle of the summer. Well, I belong to a club, the Stormy Petrels, which is a Sherlock Holmes club. So I know a lot about Sherlock Holmes, and the play was Sherlock Holmes. And I said, I'd like to try. And
there you go again,
like
jumping in.
Just jump in.
I just want to do this one too. I've already done these other 17 things in theater. Yeah. Let me do this one more thing.
I don't know
Does
how,
anybody
but I'll
else
try.
want to do anything else? Too bad. I'm doing it.
Next, she's going to be playing Tevye.
Yeah. No. Oh, no.
I want to see that.
Elizabeth was my...
Cottle?
Yes.
Yeah, name. We need full names.
Elizabeth Cottle was my Irene Adler.
In the Sherlock?
In Sherlock.
Oh, wow. You lucked out there then. I mean,
no.
Geez.
I can admit it now, but she was precast. She didn't know it, but she was precast before I even had auditions. I already had her in my head if she would agree to play the role when I asked her. and I did audition other young ladies, but I already had her in my head as Irene, and she was perfect. She was perfect. But I had so much fun with that show. So on occasion, unusual things will happen in a theater, and you have to be able to roll with it. In the case of Sherlock Holmes, I watched every performance. I had to, because that's the kind of director I am also. And it wasn't to take notes or give notes after the show. It was rather just I wanted to watch these actors on the stage. And
you could honestly
see
be a
how
member
people,
of the podcast team here because you're obviously a huge fan of theater
Yeah,
first
I
and
am.
foremost. Yeah.
I love it. So I am sitting. If you've ever been to the Toledo Rep Theater, you have a block. Well, now
On 10th Street.
Yeah, the 10th Street Theater. You have a block of seats. There are 16 across, and it's like, I think it's 8 rows back, something like that. And then you have 2 back rows. I was sitting in the back rather than the front part of it. And all of a sudden, in the dark, as my actors are, I don't even remember what scene we were in, but I see this guy begin to slide down in his seat. And I'm thinking, what is going on? And then all of a sudden I see the person next to him trying to help him. And finally I got out of my seat and I walked up and I said, is everything okay? I think he's having a heart attack. And I turned around, said to Hillary Good, who was my stage manager, I said, bring up the lights. And I yelled, before I said that to her, I said to the actors, hold action. And of course, nobody knew what was going on. I had her turn on the lights, and we helped the gentleman out. He had not had a heart attack, thank God. But my actors stood on that stage, frozen, in place.
In character.
For something like 5 minutes while we were able to get the guy downstairs and settled. And then I came back up and I said, Hillary, take the lights back out and go. The actors, from that point, it was as if they had never stopped.
Amazing. But what was wrong with the guy? Was he just trying to steal the spotlight? What was going on there?
He had some kind of a heart condition, and there was a problem, and he had begun to faint in his seat. And as it turns out, he was fine afterward.
There was something seriously
good,
wrong with him, though. Okay,
there was something medically wrong with him, but
Gotcha.
it turned out
the
that
life of a production manager or stage manager or director.
Or whatever.
It's life in the theater.
Yeah.
Period.
Ron had a
You never
story
know.
similar to that where all the lights went off at the village.
Yeah.
And everybody got their
in the
phones
middle
out.
of Into the Woods, a car hit a electrical pole and the lights went out, and they kept doing the show in the dark.
But they all got
had
their phones out.
cell phones lights on, so they lit up the stage.
And they just kept
They
going.
never stopped. Lights went out and they kept singing mid-sentence.
Yep.
Backstage of the national tour of Les Mis,
Okay.
200 wigs, 8 blocks, city blocks of costumes. Is that what it's like back there? 2 pieces of a barricade, and there's the silver candlesticks that Valjean steals, that sort of thing. Is that everywhere all around you?
You don't have quite the number of things that you were just talking about, wigs and such. You probably do have wagonfuls or gondola, because that's what the
term.
Yeah, they're like moving cupboards. And so they're called a gondola, and you open it up like a cupboard, and you have either actors' clothes in them, or you have rows of shelves, and then pounded in are the heads with all of the hair pieces and such, whatever it is. And you may have 40 gondolas full of costumes, depending upon what show it is. Phantom is the one that has a lot of costumes, not Les Mis.
Really? Because Ron went backstage on Les Mis, and there was all that stuff.
There were rows and rows and rows, but
but not like Phantom.
Not like
Phantom has something like 40 gondolas full of clothing, and each gondola usually you have however many actors you have in a show. Usually, the main characters will have a gondola to themselves. In the case of Les Mis, Phantom, they have more because the women's, like the opera singer in Phantom, has that huge dress that she wears. That will only fit in one gondola
because it's huge. Yeah.
Yeah, but when I would dress the actors that I had, it was usually either 2 or 3 actors, depending on how many clothing changes they had. When I dressed Wicked, I had the Fierro understudies. And I actually chose the second time they were here, and the third time I said, this is what I did the first time. Could I please do it again? So I was able to have that continuity. And it was just 2 men that were in that gondola.
So, like, if you're 21 years old or so right now, and you just love theater, like the passion that you have in this thing, should they just start harassing theater groups right now about helping backstage and doing things?
Oh, God, yes. If you want to learn what theater is about and you don't know whether or not you're going to like it, usher. Come over and usher. Just see what we're about.
But that's the most boring part. You just were telling me about gondolas
No, it's not, because you get to watch the show.
Well, there's that too. Yeah.
Now, you can't do that for a traveling show like what we were discussing.
Right, but you didn't do that. That's my point. Is you started doing just everything. So is that what you
For
recommend?
community
Just
theater.
throw yourself into it?
Yeah, just if it interests you, yes, absolutely. First of all, you meet the most amazing people. They either are wonderful singers or dancers or actors. They don't sing at all. You get to meet people who love working backstage, which is why I was able to work with wonderful technical directors who taught me how to do things. I got to strike a set and find out that there's community there because after you finish striking the set, we're going to go out and have pizza, whatever. And we're going to talk about the show and, well, boy, what did we do and this and that and the other thing. Yep.
So you're telling me that the best part about what you've done all this time is not the actual jobs, is what you're telling me. It's just the meeting the people and seeing the progress?
I love everything in theater. I do. I don't think I found one thing that I don't like doing because everything new is an adventure. And if you don't try something at least once, you can't say that you don't like it until you've tried it. I did that with my kids when it was trying with food. You know, you do, and that's kind of what I learned, how I've learned everything else. So, I don't know. I just love theater, period.